Greetings and welcome to another video by Sir Mike the Hedge Knight. We have a new addition to the game, a new character. It is Egg, the Boy Squire. For anyone watching the new series on HBO, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, you are familiar with Dunk, and you are familiar with Egg, his squire. Looking at his attack and defense, attack fairly low. His defense is pretty good. Now, he is a Mender. He is a blue Mender. He's also a member of the Targaryens. Dunk was factionless, and we're going to get more into that later. So defense is pretty good at max heal, but nothing off the chart. His hit points is very, very high, and we're going to get into that in a little bit as well. 141,000. So he's, for a little scrawny kid that looks like a strong wind would knock him over, boy, it's going to be tough to take him down. Good enough defense and 140,000 hit points. He has a normal speed skill. He heals a target team member for 50% max HP. I am not really a fan. Single target heals can be really, really, you've got a key member of your team and the AI focuses on them. Now at normal speed, so it's not going to take too long, Egg gets his skill, 50% max HP. Now I've seen some characters that say the max HP heal is their max, meaning the target's max. This max HP, I think it's Egg's max HP. So at 141,000 HP, 50% of that is a little over 70,000. I mean, that's a heal and a half. So if someone is being focus fired down or concentrated on, and they're trying to take out your red status, your purple Rhaenyra, whoever is the key cog to your team, if Egg gets his skill off, he's going to patch him up real nice. That being said, it's one character. So what about when you're going against teams that are kind of taking everyone down, like fire teams? They're putting on stacks of fire, so everyone's taking a little damage, a little bit every turn, and then a little bit more as the fire grows. Now Egg gets his skill ready. It's like, well, everyone's only down about 15 to 20% of their max HP, so the 50% is sort of wasted. And then you go, boy, I wish I had an AoE. I wish I had the Dragonstone Bender. I wish I had Talisa. I wish I had Blue Circe. The list goes on and on and on. So in general, I'm a bigger fan for team survivability of AoE heals, but this single target heal must be the strongest single target heal in the game. In addition, removes 2 debuffs. Now that's only at max skill. I think he starts at 1. Removes 2 debuffs from each team member. So each team member includes himself. So he's healing one person, but removing 2 debuffs from everyone. In addition, all fighters gain a 20% attack buff for 3 turns. I mean, good. Also, Egg can critically heal. So once in a while, his heal will do 33% more. So instead of a 70,000 heal, it's going to be like a 90,000 heal. I mean, the heal, he's going to heal people to full. Where I really think Egg shines is his leadership ability. Every 3 turns, Egg's allies. Now note, it doesn't say team members, it says allies. And I wish they hadn't done that, only because in his active skill, he can critically heal, even though it's only single target. So let him get this bonus as well. Let him get the critical strike chance as well, so that it can actually go off once in a while. Would that have really tipped the scales and made him too strong? I don't think so. But every 3 turns, Egg's allies gain 15% critical strike chance, which is good, and 15% critical damage, which is okay. And the reason I say that is most characters by default have 10% critical strike chance. You're going from 10 to 25. That's a 250% increase. When you do critical damage, most characters have an innate 33% critical damage. Now you're giving 15% more. You're getting them up to 48. That's like 50% boost. So it's still good, but like critical damage means nothing if you don't get the crit to begin with. So I think critical strike chance is so much more important than a critical damage buff. Maybe it would have been better if the critical damage buff was a little higher. But here's something interesting. This leadership ability, it's every 3 turns and lasts for 4. On the 4th turn, and then every 3 turns thereafter, there'll be an overlap. And I assume, I think, I'm just not sure. Will this accumulate because there's that overlap, that 4th turn? Will this accumulate throughout the combat? So like by the time you get to turn 12 or turn 15, you're up to like 45 or 60%? Because you always have that extra turn. And what I mean by that is you have 15% for 4 turns. And then 3 turns in, there's only 1 turn left on critical strike chance. Is Are they going to add? Is that 15% going to become 30% and it adds the duration to both? It goes from 1 turn up to 5 turns? Or it'll go from 1 turn to 5 turns, but then a turn later, the first 15 wears off. That I'm not sure. I haven't really played enough with something like this, like a critical strike chance or a critical damage. If it accumulates from Rob's War with bleed, we see that. Like you put a bleed on someone, it lasts 3 turns, and then there's only 1 turn left. But if you put a second bleed on, it refreshes the clock on the first bleed. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Not only does bleed go from 1 to 2, but both bleeds will last 3 turns. Then when they get down to 1, you put another bleed on. All 3 bleed. Now you have 3 bleeds. They all last refreshed for a full 3 turns. Is that going to happen with critical strike chance and critical damage? I do not know the answer. If it does, I think this is already powerful. But if it does, this could be really, really strong in lengthy combats because you could be accumulating critical strike chance, critical damage to a point where by the time you get to turn 12, if the combat lasts that long, turn 9, turn 12, this could be massive. Even if it doesn't, really like this leadership ability because so many leadership abilities are one and done or, they'll proc like once in a while. So Ned Stark, typically a leader on Stark teams, right? Puts on an ice at the beginning of combat. That's it, he's done. Leadership ability's done. We'll never do anything again. Red Daenerys, fire on all enemies, start a combat. Fantastic for a fire team. That's it. It's gone. It's not going to re-trigger type of thing. This is perpetual. This stays on for the entire combat. It doesn't run out. And there's a chance that there'll always be an overlap on that 4th turn, turns 4, 7, 10, 13, with the possibility of accumulation depending on how these things stack. So really interesting leader ability. It's the thing that I like I like this more than the 50% heal. And then we get to his passive. And here's where, for me, it sort of falls apart. And we'll talk more about that after. But anytime Egg heals Dunk, so let's stop there. I can't think of any character in the game that has synergy with only one other character. The only thing I can liken this to are the ally bonuses, those special gems. Right off, before we even get to what the rest of his passive is, I would have really preferred an ally bonus with Dunk. You want people to be thematic and you want Egg to work with Dunk. Give them an ally. Make it a really good ally bonus. Make it, to really encourage people to do it. But don't, and you'll see as we get through the rest of this, don't make half of this passive only work with Dunk. Because now, if I'm not running Dunk, I don't feel like I want Egg. If I go after Egg, I feel like I got to build Dunk. Don't make them that they're incomplete without the other. Anytime Egg heals Dunk, he grants me shield worth 30% of Dunk's current HP. Now, Dunk is a protector with a lot of hit points and defense and block and all those good things. So early in combat, his hit points are going to be very high, and a 30% shield is, if you didn't have a tough enough time taking Dunk down already, look out. I mean, 30% current hit point, that is a massive, he's going to get a huge heal and a huge shield. So he's going to keep Dunk upright for a significant amount of time. If Egg critically heals his target, he also grants them 40% stamina. Now this starts, I want to say at 30%, perhaps it's even lower. So obviously you have to skill this up, or star it up, I should say, not skill it up. Tremendous stamina boost. That being said, he's got a normal speed skill. It'll go off a couple times during combat. And we'll see below, and I don't usually look at the stats down below in my videos, but he comes with an innate 10% critical strike chance, and I think that's even at level 1, I think. So, whereas most characters start at 10%, Egg is at 20%. But what does that mean? It's 1 out of 5 of his heals will be critical. So as good as this stamina boost is, it's a little infrequent. And that's why, going back to what I said before, really wish his leadership ability, if he's giving everyone critical strike chance, why can't he also give it to himself? To then make his passive a little bit more reliable. As a strategic player, I don't like the RNG game. I don't like hoping, I hope I get stamina. I'd rather have a 100% chance of getting 15% stamina than a 20% chance of getting, whatever the numbers are. I want to know what I'm getting. I want control. I don't want to have a run of bad luck and I had Egg go off 3 times this combat, but not once did he get stamina. Then the next combat, he only goes off twice, but both times he gets stamina. I mean, it's just, it adds volatility to your results. You can't rely on it. So for me personally, I'm a bit of a gambler, but I don't like that kind of gamble. I want to know what's going to happen. So anyway, if he happens to 20% of the time, innately, he's got a 10% critical strike chance, 1 out of 5 times his single target heal is going to heal a whole bunch more, probably overkill. Most of the time it's going to be excess heal anyway, but he's also going to not pass, he's going to generate 40% stamina. That is tremendous when it goes off. And then finally, the stamina boost is doubled for Dunk. So again, we see Dunk. So Dunk would get 80% stamina. So Dunk would get, if you use Egg with Dunk, heal Dunk basically to full, then give him a shield, 30% of his current hit points, which is huge, and then give him 80% stamina. So you're going to basically get, and then as soon as he has full stamina, he puts on his taunt. So, Dunk's sitting there, max HP, tremendous shield, throws on his taunt, he passes blocks around with the taunt run. I mean, very, very good combination. Let's talk about one other thing, and that is he comes with a proving grounds. And as I've said before, I look for proving grounds when new characters come out because if you get a character to 4-star, whether by spending money or you've been hoarding gold, which is my preferred method, you get them up to 4-star, you get 2 pieces of perfect fit legendary gear. And look at this first. Now, it doesn't look like a weapon, but this is what we call the weapon slot for most characters, and you could tell because it's the only piece of gear that will increase all 3 stats: attack, hit points, defense. So for anyone on the fence about Egg or not sure about Egg, to me the proving grounds is a strong push toward go get him for this, unless you have so much legendary gear that you're swimming in it and you just don't need it. Really strong encouragement or motivation there. So what do we think about Egg, the Boy Squire? And you could probably tell from my tone, I've got mixed feelings. When Dunk came out about a month ago, I thought Dunk was a really strong individual character. But as we've learned with War, and even before War, even in high-level raid, might is important, synergy is more important. Dunk is a great individual character that had no synergy with anyone. Egg, to me, is not as strong as Dunk. But he has great synergy with Dunk. Great synergy with Dunk. But Dunk has no synergy with anyone. Egg has good synergy with Dunk. Not too much other. His heal. He'll give an attack buff to fighters for a couple of turns, 20%. Okay, that's not going to make or break a team. It lends itself to a little bit of tactical play. Do I hold back on the Mountain or Jaime Lannister or Khal Drogo, or Blue Joffrey, because I want to get the 20% attack buff first before I use their skill? Oh, okay, sure. Yes, helps a little, but I don't think it's anything that would make or break a team. So, what kind of synergy does Egg have with anyone else? Now, maybe you put him with some Brotherhood champions because their whole thing is criticals, critical chance, critical damage. You build a team around that, and Egg's the leader with his perpetual leadership ability with critical strike chance, critical damage. Gendry Baratheon, who's got a something like 30-40% buff to I think it's critical strike chance. Yes, I could see some interesting combinations with him, but raw synergy, it's not really there. And we just see so often, they are going to supposedly and we're in the middle of February, but supposedly middle to end of this month, they're going to release the faction update. I'm still very nervous about it. I feel like it's going to break the game, even if it's a good change. As we know, anytime they introduce something new, something doesn't work. And when they change these faction bonuses, they're also changing leadership abilities, I think, for like everyone. So, call me a pessimist. I feel like there's going to be massive breakage to the game. I feel like so many things aren't going to work as intended. Something's going to be wildly overpowered. It's going to create a new meta. Then 3 weeks later, they're going to fix it. And everyone's going to complain, oh, I invested in this character. Now you took away his leadership ability. I feel like we are in for some wild, chaotic times ahead. But that being said, the idea behind the faction update is you don't feel compelled to put 5 Targaryens together, 5 Baratheons together, 5 Starks together, so you can have a factionless character like a Dunk. Or you could take Egg, who's a Targaryen. Now, he's a Targaryen. Do you see anywhere in his kit that he does anything with fire? I don't. When I build a Targaryen team, I want every member of that team doing something with fire. So Egg is a great character. And I've seen some people say Egg will replace my Dragonstone Mender, who's just a common, and also blue. It seems like a natural replacement. Well, the Dragonstone Mender has a 50% chance anytime fire is being added, I think by an ability, 50% chance to add more fire. That is crucial. for fire teams. That's how I get my fire up to 7, 8, 9, 10 quickly. Egg is great. Doesn't add any fire. So I'm going to take out someone that helps my win condition and put in someone that has a really good heal. Mm, I don't think so. But after the faction update, can I put Dunk and Egg together? And can I put them with 3 members of a different faction now that you're only going to need 3 to get maximum faction bonuses? The answer is yes. So maybe that's the direction that they're going. Other than that, even with the proving grounds, I'm just not sold. I'm just not sold. I think I think his leadership ability is great. I think his single target heal is the best single target heal in the game, but it's still just single target. Still just single target. There's a lot of AoE characters out there. I'm looking at like the Baratheons with Melisandre and Stannis, and Stannis is iconic that hits everyone. Khal Drogo with his iconic and his Khal's dominance, he's hitting everyone. Fire teams that whittle everyone down. So if everyone is down a quarter of their hit points and Egg gets his heal ready, he can top off one person. Whereas my Dragonstone Mender can heal something like 13 to 15% of max HP for everyone. Blue Circe, Talisa, Marjorie Tyrell, who's also faction. So many AoE healers out there. So I am not 100% sold on Egg. I feel like if you're running Dunk, I feel like Egg is I think if you're not sure if you want Egg, if you've got Dunk and you've invested in Dunk and you've got more resources or cash, Egg works very, very well with Dunk. The only problem you're going to have is 2 of the 5 members of your team don't work with anybody else. So if you're not interested in synergy, or you think you could build a team that can overcome the lack of synergy because you could just use brute strength, Dunk really strong. Egg makes Dunk impenetrable. Tops up his hit points, big HP shield, possibly a stamina boost type of thing. So then then I could just put raw power on my team. Maybe you could put 3 fighters in to take advantage of Egg's boost for fire. Maybe you put in Gregor Clegane and Khal Drogo and I don't know, Blue Joffrey, or whoever the other good, Beric Dondarrion will get a benefit from the critical strike chance as well. Maybe you just try to beat people down with brute force and throw synergy to the wind. My style of play, I really think, especially in the Alliance wars, War of the Three Banners, synergy has become so important. It makes me very hesitant to take a character that doesn't have synergy with any other archetype of team. He works well with Dunk, but now I got to put 2 members in that don't have synergy with the rest of the team. It just doesn't work for me. And even with those proving grounds, I'm still thinking about it. 2 perfect fit pieces with a perfect fit weapon piece for a character with the best single target heal in the game, and more importantly, some interesting, very strong leadership ability that can have some interesting applications. I am thinking about it, but I think it's close, as opposed to normally a character comes out with the proving grounds and I'm all over it. Unless I really dislike the character, I'm all over it. And I had the same thing with Dunk. I think Dunk did have a proving ground, but I said, who am I using him with? And I got to tell you, folks, I've been in Gold 1 for a bit. I'm seeing Dunk all over the place. He don't give me too much trouble. I mean, maybe the Baratheons are just overpowered, but he hasn't given me too much trouble. I'll lose once in a while, just like I lose. I mean, I lost earlier today to a Stark team. I couldn't believe it. Once in a while you'll get a bad board, or you don't get your skills at the right time or the right color, or whatever it is. But for the most part, Dunk is annoying. Takes a while to take him down. It's going to be even worse when Egg's with him. But then what's the rest of their team doing? No synergy there. No synergy there. So take me a little longer to kill Dunk, but I'm going to get him. I promise you I'm going to get him. And you know who I'm going to get after him? I'm going to take out Egg. So, that's my feeling. Comment below. Let me know what you think about Egg the Boy Squire, and we will see you soon.